When did you start training combatives, like officially? Like, did you mess around with it at all growing up, or was it more as an adult?
Yeah, no, actually, so I was a little guy, the little runt. There was always in street fights growing up. I got in a lot of fights as a kid. I was quiet. I was the one everybody would pick on. And so, cool thing was, my parents, they didn't tolerate me not fighting or not getting beat up or getting beat up, and rather come to my defense, they're like, get your ass back out there and kick his ass, because if you don't come here, I'm going to kick your ass. Right? It was kind of that mindset, especially my dad, and so they didn't coddle me. They just pushed me back out to go fight. Right. And so I kind of grew up that way. I'm glad my parents were that way with me. They didn't run interference all the time and fight, They let me grow up and be a boy, which let me grow up and be a man. So then what happened was, around the age of, I think, 13, I enrolled in martial arts in Germany. I started taking, not Taekwondo, but Shotokan karate. And I think I got a blue belt in that. And it was okay, traditional martial arts. And then when I moved back, we moved to the States when I was 16, 17. I remember I really liked boxing, but I never boxed before. My mom and dad were like, no, you can't box because you get punched in the face, you get hurt, right? So, but I did have a punching bag in my garage, and I had these little cheesy gloves, and I'd be out there beating the shit out of this thing. My knuckles were always bleeding. And I've hit that bag a lot. And I used to always have fantasies of being like Sugar Ray Leonard. I loved Sugar Ray Leonard at the time. He was like really fast. And so I sit there and kind of emulate him, even though I was a goofy white boy. But I did it a lot. And then I joined the military. And I remember in the 82nd, we would have these things called Battalion Field Day, like once a year. It's all sports, right? Companies playing against each other in soccer and basketball. And they also had a boxing ring. So if you wanted to box somebody, you could box somebody. So I'm like, sign me up, And I remember I got my ass kicked by a guy named Sergeant Rock. Go figure, right? Black dude, he was good too, man. Sergeant Rock. He beat the shit out of me, but it was okay. I was a fighter. And I just had this desire to fight. I'm not a bully, but I just like it, man. And I guess maybe I was a natural born warrior. I don't know. And then in the unit, we didn't have a combatives program. In fact, back then, in the 80s, there was no combatives program at all in the Army. I don't think in the military, right? They kind of got rid of all that. And I remember one time I was going to fight in this tough man contest. And I remember a memo came down from USASOC, said, no Green Berets will fight in this tough man contest. We're not whatever it was, thugs or something. We're gentlemen and professionals and blah, blah, blah. And I thought we were Green Berets, right? So there's this stupid stigma associated with this stuff, right? So it was like, even then they were really clipping our balls, right? And so, but in the unit, me and a bunch of guys would train all the time. We'd got, Pat McNamara, Josh Collins. We train on a continuous basis. We'd go up there and get it on, punching and fighting and grappling and stuff. And then finally what happened, the unit decided they wanted to start a combatives program. I just thought, hey, it'd be a good idea that guy learn how to fight without a gun, right? Because sometimes you're going to have one. So the first guys we brought in was Royce and Rorion Gracie, from the Gracie brothers, right? They were unknown at the time. But if you look, there was footage of their father fighting down in South America, right? And it's like their school was kicking everybody's ass, right? And using jiu-jitsu techniques. So we knew that Royce and Rorion was in California. We invited them out, and they started training us. And everybody kind of got the fever after that, man. These guys were good, man. They mopped the floor. I mean, they would line us up like in a line, right? And Royce at the time was 174 pounds. Like, he had no muscles. I mean, if you shook his hand, it was like shaking a wet noodle. It's like, that's it. He's got no grip, right? And we had dudes in there who were freaking beasts, like beasts, like strong. And he'd line them up, and he'd go, okay, one at a time. You come and take me down, and you neutralize me, do whatever you want, so I can't fight back. Nobody lasted more than 10 seconds. He just whooped everybody's butt. And like, fuck, we need to know how to do this kind of shit, right? So that's how it kind of started. At that time, I was fighting in a lot of tough man contests, and I'd also been training with a guy named Jim Smokey West, right? And I've been training with Jim for a very long time. In fact, I've got a 6th degree black belt through him. I've actually got several black belts through him and some others. But so eventually I became an OTC instructor, and I took over the Combatives program. and I started developing it. So for all our new operators coming in, I ran them through a program for the entire 6 months, 7 months they were there. And it wasn't just hand to hand; it was defensive tactics. There's work related, job related as well. And so I had a pretty good program, and then I finally ended up putting the same program in third group. I wrote the Combatives Manual for them. And the reason I wrote the Combatives Manual was, so I would, every day or every 2 weeks, I would get an ODA. They would come in to see me at 0500, and I would train from 0500 to 700 on pretty much the same program I had in the unit. And then I created a manual that these guys, I'd give every guy one, and they could take this with them downrange. Like if they went to Africa to do a JSET, they can continue the training, and they got a reference manual, right? So I still have a couple copies of those. So that's kind of how I got into the martial arts. I mean, I've always been involved in it, but I took it to another level and started teaching it. And then, I developed the Combatives Program. From what I understand, I don't know if this is a fact, but I was told that my manual became the base document for the Army White Hand-to-Hand Program. And then it's just from there, everybody started, the Lions program came along, and the Marines, blah, blah, blah. So everybody started doing combatives. I continued training. I started getting on the fight circuit. Started doing a lot of kickboxing, a lot of tough man contests. In fact, I fought the first Valley Tudo match in the United States in 1994 in Richmond, Virginia. And it was me against Frank Cucci's, one of his fighters. So you probably know Frank Cucci's, right?
Yeah.
SEAL, right? Yeah. So I fought one of his guys. I don't remember his name, little Filipino dude, I think. Anyways, back then, really were no rules. It was just a sanctioned street fight. It was 3 5-minute rounds. And we had these like cheesy little gloves. In fact, I remember the padding on my gloves was up here. So all I had was some leather over my knuckle. I'm hitting this guy barefisted, man, In fact, I broke both my hands, beating the shit out of this guy that night. But 3 5-minute rounds, and I started getting involved in that. And then I remember I was supposed to go to Dam Neck. I did go to Dam Neck, and I was going to fight, what's his name, Szymanski, right? He's the admiral, right? At the time, he was one of the teams and one of the commanders. So apparently he's like a collegiate wrestler, champion, blah, blah, blah. And he and I were supposed to fight, and it was billed as Delta Force versus SEAL Team 6, Battle of the Elite, right? Me and him, we're going to fight it out, right? And big deal, man. It had it all set up, and I show up. And somebody just wrote an article on that, by the way. And so we're weighing in, and and tonight we're going to fight, me against him, and by at this point, so there was a little friendly competition between the unit and 6, right? Like, for example, the CT Olympics, we'd freaking dust those guys, man, in all the top 6 categories: shooting, even swimming, outperformed them, right? And so their sergeant major would have to give us a keg of beer, little sergeant major's best. So at this point, they already served us up 2 kegs, and we're going for number 3 with me. And we weigh in that night. I show up, and the fight officials are like, "You got a new fighter. You're going to fight the West Virginia Tough Man contest." I go, "What happened to Szymanski, right? The SEAL?" And they go, "Well, he's got a virus. Let's put it that way, right? And they're afraid that I'll catch it, and I'll go blind and sue everybody." I'm like, huh? What? Right? It's weird shit, right? So some medical thing was going on. I don't know. So, okay, whatever. So I fight the West Virginia guy, knock him out in about 30 seconds. It's all over. And then from there, I transitioned to being a professional, fighting professional. Now, I had no intention of being a world champion. My mission was I wanted to be good enough that I could reach that level where I can fight as a pro. I'm good enough to fight on a pro level, right? And so I did. And that was my mission. That was it. I was actually the Georgia State light middleweight kickboxing champion. I won the Dory Limited Tough Man Championship, which was the one that made what's his name, Mr. T, famous. I actually won that one, and I kind of got screwed a little bit because it came to Fayetteville, North Carolina. It was 2 nights, Friday, Saturday night, and the purse was $1,000 plus you got a cool jacket, which I still have, and the winner of that fight would go to Las Vegas and fight for $100,000 purse, right? So I show up on Friday night, get weighed. I'm the smallest guy, the lightest guy. I weigh 164 pounds still. And so they had 2 weight divisions, light and heavy. Heavy was 184 plus, 185 plus, and mine was flyweight to 184, right? And I was 164, the smallest dude in the fight. So the first night, I fight a guy, he's a Lumbee Indian, right? And not trying to be a pun or anything like that, but he was drunk, right? Drunken Indian. He gets in the ring and he's going ape shit on me, but I knock him out, boom, easy peasy. So that was my first win that night. Came back the next night and I had 4 more fights. And there was one other guy, I can't remember his name, but I remember he kind of reminded me of Apollo Creed. He was pretty jacked. And he wasn't really a refined fighter, but he was just aggressive, man. He was just beating the shit out of dudes, like fast, man, like the first 30 seconds. Right? And I was more methodical. I'm more reserved, and I'm not a showman, but I go out there and I just get the job done. And you could see through the progression of the night, man, I'm taking out all my dudes. I even fought a guy from the Fort Bragg boxing team, took him out.
This is while you're active at the unit?
Yeah. And they support it. You know why they support it? Because I taught the hand-to-hand program. They're like,
okay.
Hey, they let me do it because they're like, hey, this guy's out learning shit and he's bringing it back to the unit. So they're okay with that, right? I went out and so I'm bringing my knowledge, my skills, my ass beatings back to the unit. Go, I'm going to teach you something, right? Yeah. And so they could, in fact, the command sergeant major from the unit went to Dam Neck when I was supposed to fight the SEAL. He was there. He's going to witness this, right? Yeah. And pick up his next keg of beer. Yeah. So, but anyway, so I ended up winning that fight. So I fight the guy that night, right? The last guy. And it was the fight everybody was waiting on. And I broke his nose right off the bat. You know, I beat the shit out of him. I didn't knock him out, but I beat him up pretty good. Anyways, I got the $1,000. I got the jacket. And then they told me, oh, yeah, the only guys that can go to Las Vegas are the guys in the heavyweight. I'm like, what? So I got kind of screwed out of that. But the reason I actually fought that fight that night, so I lived out in Red Springs, North Carolina. I was a single parent in the unit. And I had this little house on 8 acres in farmland, you know, and we didn't have anything, right? No kids had to watch like local channels and stuff, and they were pretty small. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get you guys a satellite dish. So my dad sold satellite dishes, one of the other things he did. And at the time, they were $1,000. And I said, if I can get a satellite dish out here, you guys can watch cartoons and stuff, right? So I went and bought this fight so I can buy my kids a satellite dish, right? Because look, I'm E7 in the Army. I didn't make that kind of money. You know, $1,000, that's a lot of money for an E7, right? So that's why I actually fought it, and is to win the set. And I did. So I took that $1,000 and bought the dish and put it up on TV for my kids, you know, and I got the jacket. So, but I started fighting on the pro circuit, and I haven't quit. I mean, I'm not fighting on the pro circuit, nothing like that anymore. But I still work out. I'm still fast. I still got skills, man. Because I've never let them abate. You know, I'm always in there hitting, punching, and working. Working my motor skills.
What's the last time that you were in a street fight?
It's been a long time because I avoid them. You know, look, it ain't worth it. Here's my fear. Not that I'm gonna get beat up, right? People are crazy today. They're crazy today, you know, and I'm not gonna get shot and stabbed for what? Because you're an idiot. You got a hard on. My biggest fear is I'm gonna kill somebody. I'm afraid I'm gonna hit you so hard I'm gonna kill you. You know, maybe not from the punch, but you hit your head on the floor. You're done, right? So it's been a while. It's been a while.
Does the name Ted Pryor ring a bell?
No.
He was just on the show a few weeks ago, but he was from 82 to 87. I want to say middleweight kickboxing world champion. Just similar in age and kind of around the same time.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know the name.
Yeah, man, that's super cool.